Hello everybody, and welcome to Star Trek Voyager Elite Force. As a longtime player of the game, I would like to share my experience, so you know what to expect when you buy the game, how to fix some technical problems, and everything else you should know about it. Personally, I can recommend Star Trek Voyager Elite Force to every shooter fan out there. Over the many years I met so many players who are not Star Trek fans and still enjoyed the game very much. So it's not a requirement to know anything about the Star Trek universe, but of course if you're a Star Trek fan, you will not get only a very good shooter, but also an amazing Star Trek experience. The developers really did an amazing job here. The game has a good story, which takes over 6 hours, and it includes all of the main cast of Star Trek Voyager. After you have finished the story, I recommend every fan of Voyager to explore the ship in the Virtual Voyager Mode. Of course you cannot visit the whole ship, but it's enough for a few additional hours. You can explore 10 decks of the Voyager and do stuff like accessing the ship's databank, have 4 adventures on the holodeck, or play the amazing Borg Slayer. After you're done with the main game and explored the whole ship, you can enjoy hundreds of multiplayer maps with or without bots. Moving on to the technical side. Together with some other members from the Elite Force community, I created a list of useful tips for new players. So should you decide to install this game and play some rounds, here are some important technical tips. First, if you have the original CD version, you can still play this game without any problems. Only the installation is a bit different to the GOG version. To install the CD version, you have to go to your CD, open the setup folder and start the setup.exe, since the original 16-bit outrun won't work on modern systems. For many years this was all you had to do in order to install the game. But a nice Windows update broke this. Now you have to do some extra steps. After you started the setup.exe from the CD, you will notice that nothing will happen. So just open your task manager, do a right click on the process 30-bit setup launcher and select Go to Details. There you have to right click the process again and select Analyze Weight Chain. If there is a process which keeps the install shield from running, it will show up and you just have to end it. After that, the setup should work. If not, just start again the setup.exe from the CD and repeat the steps. When the installation of the main game is done, install the expansion pack or the patch 1.2 and you are good to go for the single player. But for the multiplayer I would recommend that you keep listening. After the installation of everything, the CD and GOG user are more or less on the same level. But before you start the game, you should change the game to your desktop resolution. If you have a resolution of 920 by 1080, you can download our config and map package and you are basically done. There you have already both config files for single player and multiplayer set to the best settings. Should you decide to change it by hand, you can do so by opening the config file with your notepad. The config file for the single player is called efconfig.cfg and for the multiplayer hmconfig.cfg. Both are located in the base AF folder. To set the game resolution to your desktop resolution, you have to change the settings for the custom width and custom height. Additional to that, you can also change the field of view for a slightly better experience. For this, change the values according to your aspect ratio. Also important to mention here is that higher resolutions like 4K, some maps or mods need more RAM, so you must allocate more RAM to the game. I set it always to 256. For the multiplayer, I recommend that you change additional to the resolution the following values to get the best multiplayer experience. In the GOG version, the multiplayer is a little bit hidden. You can either find it in your Galaxy launcher if you look here, or if you go to your game folder and start the hm.exe. A very common problem is that the game is too dark. To fix this problem, you have to set the gamma values in your config files. Here you have to set the ignore HW gamma and over bright bits and set those two to 0. For me, the most important technical tip is about the big security risk in multiplayer. It doesn't matter if you use the original CD version or the new GOG version. By playing the latest official version of the game, you are opening the door for hackers. So to counter that, I really recommend that you use one of the improved multiplayer clients. They not only fix the security issue, but also give you things like faster map downloads, fixing the before mentioned gamma bug, and much more. Even though the community created 3 different multiplayer clients, I recommend currently only 2. Virtual Voyager, it is still maintained and aims more at being compatible to the original Elite Force and behaves much like it. And the second one I can recommend is C-Mod, which not only fixes some problems, but also includes some experimental features, which adds a lot more functionality. The last technical tip is about the master servers. For the last few years, we didn't have any official master server. Luckily that changed recently thanks to some really motivated staff members at Ravensoft. So you will see once again most of the servers in the in-game browser. But just in case, I would recommend that you add some of the community servers to your multiplayer config. That way you can always find the servers, even if the main server fails. If you need help with any of the tips or just wanna find other players, please join the main Elite Force Discord server. Additional to that, you can also join one of the other community Discords like Unity 1, The Last Outpost or Classic Star Trek Gaming. They all cover multiple Star Trek games, but are also a good place to find help or other players. Coming slowly to an end, I just want to give you some gameplay tips, nothing too special. It's a good idea to familiarize yourself with all the different weapons and firing modes. Even though the phaser is a basic weapon, never underestimate it. In its secondary mode, it has a high damage output, a good range, and the best thing, it passively recharges its battery. For long range combat, you should either use the compression rifle or the I-Mod in its secondary mode. Unique here is the I-Mod. It's the only weapon in game which ignores the enemy shields and strikes directly at the health of the enemy. In close quarter combat, I like to use the Arc Welder or the Tetrion Pulse Disruptor. Specially mentioned here is the secondary mode of the Disruptor. It lets you shoot around corner, and a special warning for the Arc Welder, it's very powerful, especially in the secondary mode, so be very careful if your teammates are around you. Trust me, there is a reason why I am the master team killer. Should you need some splash damage, the secondary mode of the Scavenger Rifle, the Grenade Launcher or the Photon Burst will be your best friend. But be careful not to kill yourself in the process. A general tip for the multiplayer is you should always keep on moving and try to collect the different power-ups like the Quantum Weapon Enhancer, which gives you double damage, or the Speed Boots, which not only increases your movement but also your firing rate. Also have a look at the time. For all the different items and respawn times, check out the manual or the Elite Force wiki. The last gameplay tip is for the Virtual Voyager mode. You can find most of the places very easily, but 3 things can be a little bit difficult. One is the Photon Burst. You can only reach that by using the transporter to the cargo bay. The Arc Welder, which is also hidden in another cargo bay on deck 4. And of course the amazing box layer, which you find on deck 15. And to reach deck 15 you also have to use the transporter. Well, that's about all I have to say. If I've missed something important, please let me know in the comment section or join me on the next Noob Night. Until then, have a good time and enjoy the game. Captain Sidaris signing off.